friends! I hate the way my voice sounds when I say that. Hi friends! Hey guy! That's Drew Goodens, you can't use that. Hello! Hi! I hope you are having a fantastic day today. No law today. Today I'm gonna do a palette tag. I saw Smoky Glow do one like months ago, and then I think it was started on YouTube by Ali Glines, I believe, and it migrated over to TikTok, and one of my friends sent me a TikTok with the palette tag, and she was like, you should do this because I have a ton of palettes, and I never did because life. And then I started this YouTube channel, and one of my other friends was like, hey, I really would like to see a palette tag. I want to know what palettes you use. And I was like, sure, yeah, I could do that. So here we are, palette tag time. So I'm going to be using the Smoky Glow Ali Glines set of tags, I suppose. I know there are like a whole bunch of different ones out there, but that's the one that I'm going to be using. So without further ado, the first one is your newest palette. When I first pulled out all the palettes that I wanted to do, my newest palette was the Pat McGrath Celestial Mega Palette, which I also used in my last video for Pearson V Post. But since then, I have gotten a Sephora order and I got two new Pat McGrath palettes, the Divine Rose 2 and the Midnight Sun palette. And so I guess these would count as my newest palettes that I own. If we're gonna say the newest palette in terms of what has recently come out, then it would be the Pat McGrath Celestial Mega. I've used this one, which I really like. I really like the shimmers in it. The mattes I'm not that big of a fan of. I haven't gotten into either of these yet, and maybe I really want to know if the Triochrome Multichrome in this one is as good as the people say. So let's just see. Very nice. I like how weighty these are. Whoa. Okay, I saw it like Triochrome in the light there for a second. Yeah, there we go. And I want to know if these formulas are better or worse than this one. Okay. Whoa, that's like really soft. I've never had a Pat McGrath Mothership palette before, so that's like insanely soft. It looks way different on my finger than it does in the pan. Like you can see more of the green sort of Triochrome come through. I think I'm gonna have a lot of fun playing with this palette. So yeah, I just got this palette and Midnight Sun. Okay, the next is your oldest palette, which I have two of them. The Lorac Pro 1 and the Lorac Pro 2 I bought at the same time in 2014. These were the first like big girl fancy palettes that I got. They've served me well. They still perform exactly the same. There is one shade in the Lorac 1, Garnet, which has changed a little bit. It's gotten a little harder. It's not as soft as the other shimmers in here, but other than that, it performs exactly the same. The Lorac 1 Pro palette is probably my favorite everyday palette. I mean, you can also see how much I use it. And like gold, that's not gold. Gold is almost gone. And I'm going to be so sad when it's completely gone, but I have enough other gold eyeshadows that it'll be fine. So those are my two oldest palettes. Next, my most expensive palette. So again, it was going to be Celestial Mega. Now it's the two Pat McGrath palettes. So since these three Pat McGrath palettes are like fairly new in my collection, I figured I'd also bring out, without the Pat McGraths, what would be my most expensive palette, and that would be the Game of Thrones Urban Decay eyeshadow palette. I think this was like $62 or something like that. I don't know. It went on sale pretty quickly after it was released. Okay, Next is your most affordable palette. I believe my most affordable palette, I could be wrong because I got a lot of palettes in BoxyCharm and I was too lazy to look up how much each of them cost. But in terms of palettes that I have paid for, my most affordable one is this BH Cosmetics Galaxy Chic palette. It's all like shimmers, they're all baked shadows. I think BH Cosmetics does a really good job of being affordable while also being really interesting. They have interesting color stories and they have good formulas. These are extremely pretty, shiny palettes. I use them as toppers, I use them as like all over the lid, and they're colorful. I know I really want the, I think, Back to Brazil BH Cosmetics palette. That one just looks really pretty and it has a lot of fun colors. So yeah, I would say BH Cosmetics is a really affordable brand and you can get it at like Ulta. Okay, an everyday palette. So again, everyday, if you couldn't tell, I generally just default to my Lorac Pro 1 palette. I mean, look at all the pans in there. I just use it so much. When I don't feel like using Lorac 1, I tend to go for Modern Renaissance, which is what is on my eyeballs right now. I'm one of those like crazy people that keeps the brush inside the palette. Like if a palette comes with a brush, I keep it with the palette. I don't know why, it doesn't make any sense, but that is who I am. I don't think I give this palette enough love. I'll pull it out maybe a couple times a month, but it is a really, really pretty palette. You can do like some really nice soft glam looks with it. Yeah, soft glam looks. I also have the Anastasia Beverly Hills Soft Glam palette. I have not touched this yet. It is brand new. I've had it for like almost a year at this point, and I still haven't touched it, which I know is crazy. I just have so many other palettes that I'm trying to go through that once I use it, everybody loves this palette, so once I use it, I think I'll get more into it. Okay, next is colorful, my most colorful palette. So I'm gonna cheat here a little bit. I mean, I think I've kind of been cheating through this whole palette tag and choosing like 2 or 3 palettes per. So I got the Ace Beauté Paradise collection, and I think Slice of Paradise is probably my most overall colorful. It basically goes Roy G. Biv, except it has no red in it. But all together, all 4 of these palettes together probably constitute my most colorful palette collection, because whenever I decide to use one of these palettes, I pull all of them out and then I put together colors from all 4 together. I think the only one I've ever used by itself has been Blossom Paradise. In my opinion, this is like what every Desi bride dreams of. Like, this is the color palette that she wants on her face. This is a pure like Desi bride palette. So I have used this one by itself. So all of them together would constitute my most colorful palette. And I really like Ace Beauty. BoxyCharm also sent some Ace Beauty palettes before. Their formulas are nice. They're really pigmented. The yellow in this one actually shows up, which is really nice. And it's not patchy. They're easily blendable. I like the shimmers as well. So overall, I've been really happy with the Ace Beauty formulas. So they do well, and they do well with colors. Okay. Next is my smallest palette. I have this Model Co Trio. I don't know if this counts, but I got it in an Allure box. Allure. The only issue I have with this is that they're all shimmers. So like I can't use a matte, or I have to pull out another palette to get a matte, and the rest of these are all shimmers. But this is really good for on the go. Like, I have used this on the subway and I just like kind of put it on my eye and like I'm good to go. So that is a plus point. But this is my smallest palette, the Metallic Eyeshadow Trio Mykonos it's called. And next, my biggest palette. Okay, if we're talking in terms of which palette has the most colors, that would be my Tarte Pineapple of My Eye, I think it was called, eyeshadow palette. I think this was last year, or maybe it was 2018's holiday palette, and I can never get this open. I struggle. Ugh, okay, there we go. It's got like 4 face powders and 24 eyeshadows. They're fine. They're not my favorite. Tarte's formula is hit or miss usually. They're not very consistent, and especially with their holiday palettes, quality is just not there. So I use it sometimes, but it's workable. It's not my favorite, but it does the job. It's annoying to store because it's this weird pineapple shape and like it's not flat. So that's my biggest palette in terms of number of shades. In terms of sheer size, I think it would be my Game of Thrones Urban Decay palette. It's thick, but I like that it's a rectangle. It's easy to store, although I don't really store it with the rest of my palettes. I keep it in its little Urban Decay collection box set. A lot of people complained when this palette came out. They were like, the color stories don't make sense for the Game of Thrones like houses. They thought it could be a lot more innovative. I really like it. Like, this color is really interesting. This color is really interesting. I love like these two. That shimmery black is fantastic. This is a wonderful highlighting color. That's a really, really pretty gold Winterfell. The green is also really nice. I enjoy it. Also, I like that, you know, there are like neutrals sprinkled out throughout, so you can use it as an everyday palette if you wanted to, or put an everyday look together, but you can also do some really, really cool things with it. And it goes really well with the rest of the collection, which I know not everybody was interested in the rest of the collection, but the eye pencils, the 24/7 Glide On eye pencils that came with the Game of Thrones collection, with these works phenomenally. I'm really happy with this. Next, best memory. The palette with the best memory is Lorac Pirates of the Caribbean palette that I have. A very, very special person gifted this to me when it first came out. I was just starting to get into makeup, like hardcore. I only had this palette and these two for a while, so like I was just a pure Lorac girl. This holds a very, very special place in my heart. I don't reach for it anymore, like at all. I used to travel with it a lot, which doesn't make sense, it's so big, but that's why the mirror is cracked. The formula is not up to par with the Lorac 1 and 2 palettes. I think these ones perform way better than this one does, but I will never get rid of this one just because it's so special to me. And one really cool thing is that it has a secret compartment, and the person who gave it to me also gifted me the cheek palette that goes in there. Every time I look at this, I forget that I really like it. The highlighting colors and the blush color are really pretty. These, like, I don't know why I stopped wearing this. Probably because I got new stuff and I was like, oh, I want to try the new stuff. But I really enjoy these colors. I think they work really, really well on my skin tone. I can use all of these colors, so I think I'm going to try and put this back into my rotation. So doing this palette tag was actually really helpful because it made me go through all of my palettes and see what I enjoy and don't enjoy anymore. Okay, next. A palette that is worth the hype. This palette, I think, didn't get its moment, and it's the ABH Riviera palette. I feel like this was around the time when ABH started putting out a lot of palettes, like one after the other, and each palette wasn't getting its moment. This has really, really pretty colors. It's really nice for summer. It's that classic ABH formula. It's pigmented, it blends well. I think people kind of missed out on this because I think this came out and then like very shortly after, like either the Carli Bybel palette came out. Like it was this, Carli Bybel, Amarezzi, and Jackie Aina. The Jackie Aina palette is also very, very good. But it was just, and like there was like a bunch of Norvina stuff happening. So I feel like this did not get the moment that it should have had, but it's definitely worth the hype. Okay, next. A palette that is not worth the hype. So I don't know if it's just me who this palette was hyped up to if I like, I don't know if I clicked on it once on like Ulta and then all of my ads started being about this palette, so then I was like, oh my god, this is like an amazing palette or something, or if people actually really love this palette. But one palette I do not think is worth the hype at all is the Urban Decay Born to Run palette. I don't know if this is a hot take. Sorry if I offend you, but you can like something and I cannot like it and we can coexist and it can be fine. It's just makeup. So this palette, I mean, it's Born to Run, so you just take it with you and you can use it. I did take it on a month-long road trip last summer and I was able to use it fairly well, but the formula is inconsistent. Some of these, like Hell Ride, is not good. They're like, some of the pinks in here are not good. These three over here are really nice, but then this side is not so good. And it's kind of all over the place formula wise, and I can't, like, every time you pull out a palette you can't be like, oh well, the formula for this shade sucks, so I guess I'm gonna try and figure out how to do a look with shades that don't suck. And I don't know, it's just, for me, it's frustrating to use this palette. Like, I have to think about whether or not I want to use a particular shade. Will it blend out well? Is it like patchy or chalky? I can't. So this sits, it just sits there. Sometimes I pull it out, but usually, one thing I do like is the mirror on this, so big. I do like that about this palette. Not really worth the hype in my opinion. Okay, next. Favorite palette from favorite brand. Okay, I couldn't make up my mind about this one. So I have Modern Renaissance from ABH. I really like the ABH shadows for the palettes that I own. I can't say anything. I don't own any of the Norvina palettes, so I don't know. But the ABH like OG formula is really, really good, and I find that I can use almost all of the colors. I also pulled out a ColourPop palette. I know people have strong opinions on ColourPop. I really, really like ColourPop in terms of just their makeup. Their lipsticks are really, really good. All of the ColourPop eyeshadow palettes that I've tried are really good. I only have Disney themed ColourPop eyeshadow palettes. I don't have any of their 9 pans or anything, so that's why it wasn't my cheapest palette, I don't think, because I think all of these were slightly more expensive than the BH Cosmetics palette. I really like the Villains collection in general. The ColourPop formula for eyeshadows I think is really nice. These colors are also really, really fun. I understand why some people don't like ColourPop. The thing with ColourPop is that a lot of people don't like that they're putting out so many palettes and collections so quickly. But here's the thing, they told us they were gonna do that. They were like, we want to be the fast fashion of the makeup industry, so we're just going to churn out and drop collections all the time. So they told us they were going to do that, first of all. Second of all, I mean, that brings up kind of eco-friendly issues, but they only make as much as they sell, so to me, at least in that regard, makeup is wasteful. Yes, they also don't overproduce and then like throw away a whole bunch of expired makeup. So to me, that makes sense. They're like, we're gonna drop a bunch of collections and then however much of it sells, and then once it's sold out, we're just gonna not bring it back. And I think that's totally fine. The other issue people have is like, they keep dropping too many collections, but they all look the same. And I'm like, again, they sort of told us that they were going to do that already. So my thing with ColourPop is that they're not trying to necessarily keep old customers, right? Like, there are people like me, I'm gonna buy makeup, I'm going to buy Disney ColourPop collections. There are some people who are going to buy all of the ColourPop 9 pan palettes. ColourPop doesn't need to advertise to those people. Those people are gonna buy it anyway. ColourPop is trying to get new people to buy their stuff and get enticed by ColourPop things. So they're going to repackage similar or same looking palettes in different themed items. So it's like, oh, I really like sunflowers, so I'm gonna get the sunflower palette. Or I really like cheetah print or Mean Girls or whatever. They have like all these different themed palettes, so you can get the shades that you want in this themed packaging that you enjoy. And people say that they're basically the same shades, like the shades aren't changing. Yeah, because they're just repackaging them so that more people will buy it. Anyway, that's my ColourPop rant. I don't know if that made sense at all, but to me at least, ColourPop already told us they were going to be doing this. This isn't something that necessarily bothers me. It's a business. That's what businesses do. They've kind of got the hook around like the fast fashion of the makeup industry. The other thing is that they offer good products for relatively cheap prices. I mean, you get really nice formulas in like $6 lipsticks and like, what is it, like $12 or $16 palettes. Like, I think that's fine. But that's also just, that's my opinion. That's what I feel like. I think ColourPop is doing fine. They're making their money and people are still buying from them. Anyway, that's my big ColourPop rant. Sorry, that just extended this video by like 10 minutes. Oh man. And finally, my most used palette, which, where did I put it? Lorac Pro 1 is my most used palette. If you watch me on TikTok, I'm usually wearing this palette. It's just so easy to work. Yeah, that is it for my palette tag. I have a whole bunch of other palettes. If you guys want, I can go through like all of my palettes. Let me know in the comments if that's something you want to see. If not, also totally cool. Let me know if you like the palettes I use, if you hate the palettes I use, do you use similar palettes? I'll link everything, like all the palettes I talked about down below with the tag, and I'll also list what's on my face in the description box, and yeah. I think that is all. I hope you've had a fantastic day, or that you will have a fantastic day whenever you are watching this. If you enjoyed this video, or if you like Lauren looks, even though there was no Law in this video, please do hit that like button and subscribe if you feel so inclined, but no pressure. And I will see you all next time. Bye!